bring the music down a little bit, or it can just shut off. Either way, hello everybody, welcome back. Let's get this camera going a little bit closer. There we go. Hello everybody, my name is John. This is my channel. Let's see, I gotta make sure everything's bouncing here. Let's see, we got everything's clicking, everything's counting, everything's registering. Okay. We must be live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is John. This is my channel, Your Renaissance Man. It is March 24th, 2026. And today we're going to talk about a child abuser released in California just recently. But before I get to all that, I want to thank all our subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed already and you're willing to do so, it'd be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, you can help support us by either like, comment, or sharing. There, I finally remembered my intro. I've been starting videos again and I don't script. I'm sorry. So I'm finally remembering my intro. So anyways, back to the news. We've got this. Yeah. I mean, what's a better sign of the world going to heck? I think we can say hell and not get ghosted in the searches for YouTube. I think we're okay saying hell. So let's see if we can get this up here. Okay, this dirtbag. So this is David Funston, I think his name is pronounced. He is 64 years old, and he's a convicted pedophile in the state of California. So he's received, I think it was, what did we have here? Back in I think it was 99, somewhere in there. He got 3 consecutive life sentences, and they were listed as 25 to life. So I'm not sure what 25 to life means. Maybe there's a variance on there for good behavior type stuff. But anyways, so on the high side, on the low side, he was basically 75 years. On the high side, 3 lifetimes. Anyway, so he is 64 right now and was released in February. Under a law that California has that makes people, it's basically to help free up their prison system a little bit. And it's a law that applies to, I think it's people over the age of 50 and who have served at least 20 years of their sentence. So the argument with this person is, if he's got, yeah, should somebody be eligible for this? It's got 3 25 to life sentences. And on top of it, he was convicted of 16 counts of kidnapping and molestation of children, and I don't have patience for this anymore in this world. I really, really believe people doing these crimes need to be put to death. And either violently, non-violently, I don't know. I don't care on that part. They just need to be eliminated. Because, I mean, this is 16 counts that he was found guilty of. And this is back in the 90s. So, our testing and all that stuff probably wasn't as great as it was now as far as DNA and all that stuff. And what I'm getting at is, I don't know that he did more crimes than what he was found guilty of, but there's a pretty damn good chance he was, just knowing about those crimes. And my background on those crimes is, I have a ex-wife that was abused by a family member, and come to find out that family member pretty much abused everybody in the family. And it was, yeah, telephone stop ringing there, baby, we can wait later. Finding out that, anyways, I went on a journey learning about sexual abuse and child abuse, learning about the dynamic of it, where it comes from, how does it start, where is it, why does it perpetuate? And I'm to the point, I got no patience for this stuff. And I don't think these people are curable. I don't think these people will ever be safe in society. I shouldn't say they should be ever safe. I don't think anybody should will ever be safe around them. At least not 100%. And I don't think with this type of crime, I don't think if you can be 100%, cured of this or whatever, I don't think you should be let loose. I think the damage done to children is far outweighs this man's freedom. I don't think he can do anything for our society that'll benefit anybody. I think all he can do is hurt us. And that's one I'll argue to the grave. You're never going to change my mind on child abusers. These are, I mean, and of course, because like I said, I'm somewhat educated on this topic. I understand that this person was most likely a victim of somebody else. Does not excuse his behavior at all. We cannot hug this person to being normal. We can't hug this person harm enough to put together the broken pieces. And I'm sorry to say that some of these crimes we just cannot overlook. I think it is one of the most destructive things happening in our society is softening child crimes, softening sentencing, early releases, uh, and even somebody close in my life that I know professionally, they went through this with a child they adopted. They recently adopted a child in my state, and they had this girl had revealed to them that she had been abused. She had been molested at her foster home. And it was by the child of the foster parent, the biological parent, the biological child of the foster parent. And I think it was a boy, and I think at the time he was maybe 16 or something in there. So still a minor, but uh, so they went through the whole court process, which is it's arduous. It's a lot of work going to court for big stuff like this. It's a time consumer, and it's a financial drain. It sucks a lot out of you mentally, sucks a lot out of your life. It puts strains on your work and it puts strains on your relationships. But they went through the whole process, hoping for justice. And so I mean, so here's a teenage boy molesting a girl who's, I believe at the time she was like 6 years old. And he got off with uh, probation and community service hours. And it was like 45 hours or something like that, where it's just like, and this goes under that first offender type thing. Well, it's the first time. We can't, I don't agree with this crime. Maybe you can be a little softer on the first time, but probation and community service, that's not a high enough deterrent for for somebody whose mind is prepared to do this. This is their will to do this is much stronger than worrying about community service. I can guarantee you that. It's got to be strong. It's got to be stronger. It just you can't keep allowing this to happen. It perpetuates more and more. Um, I mean, and knowing what I know that, so that tells me that this boy was abused at some time in his life, and that's almost 100% guaranteed. I've never seen any research to show that people just start abusing children on their own without any previous, abuse, you know, done to them. And not everybody who's abused turns into an abuser. I'm not claiming that, but yeah, the ones that turn abuser, you got to stop this. You got to stomp it out. You got to make it quit from happening. We've got child trafficking problems using for in the sex trade, black market type stuff, underground stuff. We got to stop minimizing the value of our children. It's a horrible thing we're doing in our society. California is the one to release this person, and they've got state bill, what is it, 145 going through, and they're trying to minimalize some of the sentencing guidelines. And they're trying to add, like, if it's within a 10-year gap of, the offender and the victim, that the offender doesn't get listed on the predator list. And, their rationale behind it is the way they're trying to sugarcoat it or soften it is, well, a 19-year-old shouldn't get put on the predator list for having sex with a 16-year-old. Okay, well, was it consensual? Because then they say, well, that's the other part of this. I don't think they give a 16-year-old as being able to consent to sex in most states. I think you might have to be 19. But either way, they're trying to soften it so you don't punish somebody of a much younger age, when it's only a slight age discrepancy. So they want to add this 10-year gap, but it's all encompassing. So, the other side, the example they give is, do you really want a 14-year-old being molested or abused, whatever you want to call it, by a 24-year-old? And there you can see the extreme of it where, okay, a 24-year-old better know better by then. You know, that isn't a oopsie. Oopsie, she's 14, I'm 24. Now that's a huge difference at that age. That's a young maturing adult and somebody who's definitely still a child, well, not prepubescent at 14, but still maturing, still whatever. So I I can't with an open conscience let a 24-year-old get a softened sentence because it was less than 10 years. I can't sleep with that. I can't deal with that. That's not right. Yeah, yeah, we got to fix that. We can't allow that to happen in California. California's got some laws that they've been trying to softening basically pedophilia charges for a while now. And what that does is it normalizes it. Then it devalues the crime and it says, well, it was only this, it was only that. And that's a slippery slope to go down. That's what's it's basically done that way for social acceptance. So then you get an overall majority as it becomes normal, then it's like no matter a big deal. Well, it was only this, it was only that. And that's easy for somebody to say when it's not their child. You look at a parent that's going through this and how devastated they are and the problems they're going to have for the rest of their life with this child. And not saying that child's not a problem, but that child needs a lot of help. And that family should not have to ever go through that. No family should. No family. You can't, nobody deserves that. This is something that's unspeakable. This is something that people should be publicly beaten to death who do this as an example of why you don't do this. So even if the person is, got it in his head and he's been abused and he's contemplating it, he needs to know that he's going to get beaten to death if he crosses that line. Then if he does, let him have it. He's fully aware at that point. I shouldn't have done this. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, even recently we had, oh God, this was a heartbreaking one. We recently here in the state of Minnesota, we had, oh gosh, how young was she? It was a girl, teenager at least, young teens. I believe the city was Zimmerman or the town. Um, how old was the dude? 28. I think he was somewhere in there, a male. He followed the school bus home and abducted her as she got off the bus in December. And our Amber Alert system went crazy, which was it didn't, well, I'm not going to minimize that. It got people paying attention right away. My Facebook was lit up with people all reposting stuff, looking for her, posting her picture, identifying her, encouraging people to contact police, get the message out. If you see anything, blah, 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 contact your locals. So I was very impressed with that because our state has been soft on these crimes, just like the one I just mentioned. But it showed our community really come together and want to help this girl. And they did apprehend this person, and it was, boy, I think she missing around 4 p.m. or something like that, and he was found with her around midnight, 1 a.m. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, oh, good, they got him before they could do anything to her. That was not the case. He's First thing he did was took her to a motel and abused her. So now you got another child damaged for life, robbed of her innocence. Anyways, it's a powerful topic for me. I don't like it. It's not good for the world. It needs to be stomped out. However, we choose to stomp it out, I don't know, but it's got to be stopped. You don't know unless you've experienced it, you don't know the amount of damage it does to a child. You can't minimalize it with he or she was only 6, he or she was only 4 years old. How do they really? No, this child is permanently scarred. Not that she can't be helped or recover from it, but it's permanent. You can't unravel that 100%. So that's my hot button topic more than anything is getting rid of pedophiles. These people need to go away. Need to stay away from our children. If we're not ready to not ready to remove them from the world, then maybe we need to put them in a camp somewhere, put them on an island. I don't know. Send them to Venezuela, stick them in a prison. I don't know. Get them the hell out of here. It's not helping our world. We're trying to normalize it for deviants to get away with it. That's the crux of it. Why else would you soften a crime like this? As far as punishment and sentencing and all this crap. Why? Who are you helping? You're not helping anybody. You're helping this manifest itself into worse situations and creating more victims. That's what it's doing. Yeah. People like this need to be 6 foot under. So I don't know. You can debate me in the comments all you want. I don't care. You're never going to change my mind on this one. So say what you want. If anybody sees this, because we're a new channel and right now we're talking to dead air. So that's the humbling thing about doing this kind of stuff. You start out at 0 and hopefully you don't stay at 0. Hopefully you get some followers if you have interest. That's the thing here. People like hearing about this stuff, care about my opinion. Maybe not. Whatever. That's just the way life is. So we give her a shot, throw it out there, spitball a few topics and see what sticks. So anyways, hope you guys are well. Look out for each after. I'm getting tongue tied. I'm without my caffeine. Look out for each other. The biggest problem in this world right now is we don't look out for each other. We become isolated in our own lives, isolated from other people, and we're social creatures. It's not normal for us. A sense of community is people looking out for each other. You see something, call. Something doesn't sound right. Like this dude abducted this girl in my state. I see something weird, see something, see somebody getting off a bus and getting somebody's vehicle you don't recognize. You can call the cops on that. That's not an overreaction in this day and age. Worst thing that'll happen is that person will have to explain who he is and identify himself. Provided he's not, provided he's supposed to be doing what he's doing. And you can say, "Oh, that's embarrassing." That's no. I would be happy to show ID to somebody looking for somebody and to prove that I'm not them. I'd be happy to show my ID. That's not embarrassing to me. No, if I look like a suspect and I got to prove I'm not, that's fine. Go get these fuckers. Because that's what really needs to happen. So, especially with children, like I said, keep your eyes open, stay aware. It's, child crimes, they don't get the attention they used to. And why? Because they're common. Stuff happens every day now. A really high profile case back in, oh my gosh, was it in the 80s? Jacob Wetterling. You can look that up if you like. I believe it was in the late 80s. But anyways, this child, Jacob Wetterling, boy, teenager, I believe at the time, went missing. And that got publicity around the country. I don't know if it went global. I wasn't that informed at that time. I was pretty young, but there's somebody's mom who never look up Yeah, look up Patty Wetterling. There's a mom who didn't give in. Patty was everywhere, you know. She exemplified the love a mother has for her child. It was impressive. You would see her you would see her all over the news, all over the country, you know, following leads, getting the word out, trying to find her son. Unfortunately, he was never found. Um, but this day and age, children go missing every day. And back when I was a kid, they put faces on milk cartons. Well, I mean, yeah, there's another thing that dates me. Milk carton. What's a milk carton versus a milk jug? Milk cartons. So a half gallon of milk used to come in a cardboard box, basically a rectangle. And so they did that to help get awareness out there for missing children. And they published faces of missing children on the side of milk cartons. The dairies were, you know, doing that. It was a valiant effort to try and get notice out. And they used to put that in the local newscast at the end of the show. They would show pictures of missing children and, keep your eyes open. If you find them, call this. We don't have that public awareness of children missing anymore. It's that's been watered down. That's what I mean. They're trying to numb this. They're trying to desensitize us. They're trying to water it down so it's not as big a deal. And this is not a crime you can minimalize. I couldn't imagine in this day and age having a child go missing and then kind of be treated like it's commonplace. And if we hear anything, we'll let you know type thing. Oh God, that would hurt. That would hurt so bad. So that's why it was so reassuring when this local girl went missing that there was a lot of people that were actively helping and trying to find her. So I'm glad that we still have a little common sense and decency going on, at least locally. I know other parts of the world it's not the same, but at least we had in that moment. It was a victory overall because she's home with her parents. We can ask for it to have been better, but most importantly, she's alive and she's home. So, yeah, these people have no right to walk amongst us. Yeah, I don't. You're never going to change my mind on that one. These people need to be put away forever. But like I said, my biggest thing about putting them away forever is that turns into decades over time if they're put away in their 20s and laws soften up and now they've been there for 30 years and it's like, yeah, let's just let him go. So he doesn't get his life sentence because times change. He's still a danger to children, but now we somehow feel that it's less of a crime and he should be set free. That's why I really think the death sentence needs to happen with these situations. This person needs to be removed from society immediately. He can't, he's a virus, he's an infection, he's infecting our children. He's corrupting them to the point that they're not going to have a healthy, normal life. They can have a healthy life, but they probably won't have a normal life. They're always going to be scarred forever. There's therapy and stuff that can help them through it and get them the love and support they need to get through this, hopefully get them to heal, but it's going to scar them forever. It's if you're a parent, you understand. If you're not a parent, it's hard to grasp this. You'll never know what the love for a child feels like until you have one. You know, it's funny back in high school after high school, a friend of mine from high school, he kind of downplayed having children to, oh, it's just like having a puppy. And this is after I had my child. I'm like, no, it is not. Do not ever equate raising a pet to having a child. You will never feel the pain you feel when anything happens to your child compared to what could happen to your pet. The same thing across the board. You will feel a much greater magnitude of your child versus a pet. There is so much greater of a bond. And I can speak it to extremes and words, and you'll still won't understand it unless you've experienced it. And just like having a child, you don't know what that's like until you have one. And I've got friends still that are having children for the first time, and I'm in my 50s. I mean, granted, some of these friends are younger, but um, yeah, it's all I ever, my thing I like to say to people, new parents is your life will be forever different. And I don't say that to scare you, you know, that's the facts. Your life changes forever once you have a child, and your view of the world, your view of the world changes too. You value certain things more and look down upon other things more, like crimes against children. What's more horrible than hurting a children? I don't know that there is anything more horrible than hurting a child. Um, well, I'm not going to make a comparison. That's no, that's not right in this situation. I'm going to bite my tongue on that one. That's not a straight comparison. But anyways, we got to do something about it for society. We got to raise our morals. We got to enforce them. I mean, we're a Christian-based society, and they keep trying to downplay religion, and that's basically to water down morals, because a lot of our laws, a lot of our laws in our country that were built, on our foundation were basically what's in the Bible, like the Ten Command, what's in the, excuse me, what's in the Ten Commandments, for example. That's laws for life, and I really think that's part of the why they chisel at religion to knock it down. I'm all in favor of anything that makes you be a better person. If religion is your moral compass and that's what guides you and leads you in life and makes you a better person, I'm all in favor of it. Now if you use religion to start a war, yeah, that I don't agree with. We're not going to go down that road, but yeah, I really feel like they're trying to water down our society by, devaluing religion, smearing it, saying it's, not real, whatever, your God's wrong, there is no God, whatever you want to, whatever they do to say about it. And then they connect it to the religion, because if they can say the religion is of no value or not credible, then they can start chipping away at the rules within that religion. Well, the rules, like within Christianity, are kind of the rules of our country. I don't say kind of, they are. A lot of those rules of our country are in the Bible. So if you can chip away at that, I mean, this is all about chipping away at stuff to, it's such a slippery slope. It's an ugly thing, road to go down to, you know, and I can value free speech and your right to choose and all that kind of stuff. But chipping away at rules like that, that's to hurt people. That's to take stuff away from us. You know, take away a child's innocence, for example, take away a life. When that stuff's preventable, it shouldn't be allowed to happen. If we know what causes it, it needs to be stopped. I guess that's my overall point behind this video is we gotta stop it. Look out for your neighbors. See something suspicious, call the cops. They're always happy. That's a lie. They're not always happy, but in my community, they're happy to check stuff out. They're happy to go do calls and just verify stuff, make sure things are okay. And if they're not okay, they deal with it. Hope your community at least has that level of response. So, anyways, look out for each other. Become friends with your neighbors. Don't fall into this society where we're all isolated from each other, even though we're living next door to people crammed in these, multifamily dwellings, and yet we don't know our neighbors. That's really bad. How do you look out for your neighbor if you don't know who they are? That was such a strong system when my growing up. Our neighbors all looked out for each other. You saw somebody in the neighborhood wasn't there, it got attention, and it was dealt with, and it was weeded out. And our disconnect from our neighbors and not knowing our neighbors it allows us to be more susceptible to more problems. because when we unify with the people around us, we become community, we become strong, and we look out for each other. And that lessens our dependency on big government, you know? And I honestly feel at times the isolation they try to make us more narcissistic or whatever you want to call it, you know, is to isolate us from each other. And then they drive wedges between us, like class warfare and race and all that stuff. I mean, like growing up, my dad, he's racist in some regards and some, with some races and stuff. But I remember growing up not seeing color. So even the way he was, he didn't he didn't he didn't put color in my face to notice the difference with other people. I didn't recognize color for the longest time. That's Jim. That's Susan, you know. And what do we do now? We shove it in everybody's face. Now there's a whole topic there. I can't go down that road on this video. This is a little bit off pace, but anyways, get to know your neighbors, get to know everybody in your community, be supportive of each other, even if you don't agree on everything. That's the way the world used to be. We set aside our differences and embraced our similarities and do what we could was the best for the greater good. So hope you're doing well. God bless you. Stay safe. And we'll see you soon.